a lot of people have been chatting about recently. I've been seeing it a lot in social media. Do you ever experience self-doubt, even in areas where you typically excel?
Well, you might have imposter syndrome. Dr. Saunders from the Institute of Living tells us what that means. Hey, Doc, how are you? Good to see you.
Hello, friends, and happy Thursday.
It's something that I kind of suffer from, is this what you call imposter syndrome. Can you explain to our audience exactly what it is?
Yeah, so it is a psychological phenomenon in which you don't feel like you deserve the accomplishments, and you consistently experience self-doubt. One of the words that's often used in conjunction with imposter syndrome is feeling like you are a fraud, that you don't belong where you are, that you don't deserve the things that are happening to you, and that you're worried that you might be exposed as a fraud.
Now, can you explain the difference? I think everyone can attest at one time or another in their life they have self-doubt. You know, their confidence level may be a little low. But what is the difference between that versus this imposter syndrome? How do you know to differentiate?
Yeah, I think the imposter syndrome, it's a little bit more pervasive, right? So we might have a day where I'm like, do I really know what I'm doing? I do know what I'm doing. But for the most part, we might have pockets of time where we feel like, you know, am I really deserving of all these things? Or have I really worked hard enough to get all the things that I have? I think the concern with imposter syndrome is when it's more pervasive or chronic. It's going on for a longer period of time. And so that's where it becomes more concerning, because you can really do a lot of kind of damage to your emotional well-being by constantly doubting yourself and engaging in a lot of negative self-talk.
So is this something that's happening more or these days, or was it always around, this imposter syndrome?
I think it's always been around. It's just been highlighted more. I mean, I read something that Tom Hanks said recently. He feels like an imposter sometimes, as one of the world's greatest actors. So I think it's just being highlighted more, and people are talking about it more. So I think it's important to just recognize that this is a phenomenon that exists, and there are things that you can do to make it better.
All right. So what are some of those things that you can do, Doc?
Yeah, tell us.
So it's about cultivating a growth mindset, right? So even if you feel like you might be an imposter or a fraud, you have to say to yourself, okay, what can I do to improve my skills and abilities to not feel that way? Another thing to do is ask for feedback from a coworker or a supervisor. So if you're getting feedback that you're doing well in your job, you're handling your responsibilities, you're managing things in a way that you're supposed to be. So outside feedback should help settle that constant self-doubt a little bit.
Yeah, like when I was growing up, Doc, I said they're never going to take a middle-class kid from Comac, Long Island, and put him on television. And I'm like, oh, here I am. Like, it's a little shocking.
Right. Right. And so, but you are stepping into your self-worth every day, working hard, and trying to be your best self. So another thing that you can do if you struggle with imposter syndrome is really work on setting boundaries and not being such a people pleaser. Because if you can set boundaries and find your voice and say no to things, it's not like you're trying to constantly work hard to prove to other people that you're good enough. And you really need to work on the negative self-talk, those statements that are in your mind about being a fraud or not being good enough or feeling inadequate. You really have to work on that negative self-talk.
I love the setting boundaries. I feel like that's such a common theme that's threaded in all of our conversations with you, Dr. Saunders.
Yes, and it's, that people pleaser in many of us that just wants other people to like us. And part of that's because do we feel that we don't deserve the success we have, or we don't deserve something? So yes, I'll do this, or yes, I'll do that. But a lot of times that's overextending ourselves. So it's finding our voice, setting a limit, staying true to yourself.
Thanks, Doc. We appreciate it. Have a great Thursday.
We're all good enough. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You said you got that.